I feel like I just made a video talking about Castlevania Season 4 being right around the corner, and here we are, it's over and done with. I woke up really early, I watched it again, then later that night I watched it a third time. Let me start off by answering the question posed in the title of this video. Is it an improvement over Season 3? Vastly. There is no comparison. With Season 3 of the series, I never got that excited fanboy, this is Castlevania moment. And I don't want to focus too much on Season 3 because that's not what this review is about. But it has to be brought up. This time I feel that Powerhouse Animation really brought their A game. Not that they weren't talented before, but the amazingness of Season 4 is just vastly above anything else the series has done up to this point in time. This season's very action-oriented, there's a good amount of fighting in it, and some of these really flashy action scenes, I can't imagine how much work went on behind the scenes to get them looking this good. Major props on how great this season looks visually. Having said that, I'm surprised how quickly they were able to get this season done and released considering all of that. It shows that they improved and got better as they progressed and worked on the show more and more. But a show can look as good as it possibly can. It still needs to have a great set of characters, still needs to have a compelling storyline. And I don't think Season 3 really did that too well, whereas Season 4 shines in those departments. The most important component of Season 3 was the introduction of a couple new characters, and some character development, but in retrospect, after watching Season 4, Season 3 does feel very much like filler. I should mention, I almost forgot, this review is going to have some spoilers. There's just no way for me to talk about what I really liked in Season 4 without having some light spoilers. I'll try to keep some of the more major plot twists out of it, but yes, there will be spoilers, so be warned. Season 4 does have a lot going on at all times, but the way it's handled never felt like it was too much going on because it has the advantage of the other seasons that started off these storylines that are all now headed towards their natural conclusion. All these characters are all on their separate little journeys until this season where it kind of ties everything together again. This season's a great example of how important it is that when you have a series like this, let it play out and let the story develop to see where it goes. Season 4 is the payoff. Story-wise, to summarize what Season 4 entails, it picks up right after Season 3 and goes over the next couple of weeks to show how the world is still falling apart. In Season 3, we're introduced to a cult that was trying to resurrect Dracula. In Season 4, everybody's trying to resurrect him. Every other day, someone new is trying to bring him back. Vampires and monsters all over the place gathering plans to resurrect him, all while Isaac is running around with his monster army. And Carmilla's building her own army to take over the world. I'd say this storyline very loosely adapts some aspects of Curse of Darkness, especially towards the end of it, but only loosely. If you want something exactly like the games, this show's just not for you at this point. That's not the direction they took it. There's also some original characters introduced this time that I really enjoyed, especially these two new vampires, Varney and Ratko. Varney's this British vampire that was part of Dracula's court in the early days, and he's obsessed with bringing him back to life. Apparently he smells really bad, in retrospect a very important factor of his character, and he's constantly looking to make himself known to others.
And who might you be?
Do you not remember me?
You do not look memorable.
Varney.
There's a lot more to this character by the end of the season, but I'll keep that specific part spoiler free. And Ratko is a Russian vampire. He's not like the other vampires that try to eat, hide, and stay to themselves. He's a straight up monster. He loves butchering his victims and being as predatory as possible. He's got this stance that vampires are the ultimate hunters and need to show their victims how terrifying they can be. At some points, I thought he was definitely a genuine threat. But let's get back to our main characters, the ones the story revolves around. Sypha. She's a character that really grew on me, and I mean from the games to the series. Ever since I played the video games, I've never been big on playing as the magic type of characters. Actually, in video games in general, I always find the magic characters kind of boring. It's just not my gameplay style. I always prefer playing as that warrior type character that goes in whip striking. But man, they made her so cool in this show, and she has a lot of funny moments in Season 4. Trevor's been rubbing off on her, so she starts picking up some of his traits.
You're insane! Of course I'm insane! The fuck? What now?
And they made her a powerhouse. When there's a fight going on, she's blasting enemies left and right with fire, she's freezing them, electrocuting them sometimes, she's dangerous. One of my favorite moves she does is when she creates this big ring of ice, and then it starts spinning around really fast like a blade, just decimates everything around it, it's crazy. And once again, from an animation point of view, It's impressive. I think one of the most drastically large improvements in this season is with Alucard. In season 3, it felt kind of like they didn't know what to do with the character. It's like they wanted him in the show, but didn't really know what role he would play that season. So he just kind of wound up in the castle being a mentor to 2 other people, but they betray him, and by the end, he's back to square one. To me, his entire character arc just kind of felt like a waste in Season 3. With Season 4 Alucard, you can start seeing some of the backtracking from Season 3. They kind of took a step back and reevaluated it. He's only alone and angry for a very short time at the beginning. Then a village reaches out to him for help, and he goes right into hero/protector mode. This is Alucard. From an old school Castlevania fan point of view, I think this is how Alucard works best. Instead of just having him as this depressed, lonely half-breed, he's a character that's always ready to stand up and protect humanity because it's what his mother would have stood for. So his story arc in Season 4 revolves around him keeping these villagers safe and escorting them to the castle for additional protection. Not to mention he's got his shield, his sword, and clothing from Symphony of the Night, so he looks extra cool. And Alucard also meets with Saint Germain, you'll remember him from last season, and his character takes multiple twists and turns. We know he's trying to save someone that's lost in the Infinite Corridor, but now he starts doing some really questionable things in order to attain his goals. He's one of those characters that takes things a bit too far to accomplish a goal, and that made him a lot more interesting to see how his actions are affecting all the other people around him. He goes from being kind of likable and mysterious to, man, this character is really taking a turn for the worse. Isaac is a character of controversy. He's one that fans are split right down the middle, I would say. Some people prefer the video game version completely, some people like the Netflix version way better. I fall in the camp of Isaac is one of the best characters in this entire show. Having said that, he's almost nothing like his video game counterpart. But I'm actually glad about that. To me, the video game Isaac was just an ultra generic anime villain. I've never liked that character. The Netflix version created a very complex person that's heavily changed throughout the series. His entire story arc is basically a thought experiment. He's been traveling the world, he's been learning, he's got power, but his journey really sees him taking on a lot of knowledge from different people in different places. We see him start off as this character that's hell-bent on revenge for Dracula's death, to a man that decided to conquer the world with his demon army, and ultimately ends up being a man that chooses to stop being a tool of others, realizing that it's okay to just live. He did a lot of horrible things, but you feel almost sympathetic for him. Something that this show tends to do a really good job on, making you feel sympathetic for really bad people. But he realizes that he's never had the opportunity to just be part of the world. It's so good. It's so good how they handled the story arc.
I am interested in building a way to live. And I think I will start here.
And Hector. Hector had a huge amount of criticism in Season 3 as for how he was treated, and I completely understand the criticisms. And this is another example where you could see where they're kind of backtracking from plot points Season 3 left him at. This is the part where it's left sort of unexplained. Season 3 ended with Lenore really mistreating him. You can play it up that she was putting on a show for Carmilla, but Season 4 just ignores that completely. When you see Hector and Lenore for the first time, they're flirting and just hanging out with each other like nothing ever happened. I think they could have bridged that gap a little better and shown us what happened in between Season 3 and 4 involving them, because it seems like they're more than happy to be around each other, and I did not get that impression at all the way the last season ended. And I liked Hector's character a lot this season. Again, don't expect a copy and paste of Curse of Darkness Hector, where he's running around mad with revenge on a quest to kill Isaac. It's just not the direction they took the character. This time around, they made him more intelligent, working behind the scenes against Carmilla and being very conniving. You see him throughout the season, working on plans of his own, even deceiving Lenore, who's essentially his caretaker and always has eyes on him. Season 4 Hector's greatest weapon is his mind and his cunning. He's being forced to create an army of monsters for Carmilla, but at the same time he's screwing her over behind the scenes, without her knowledge. And Carmilla's always suspicious of him because he's a human, but Lenore is that wall in front of him that says, "Leave him alone, I got this."
You mistake that puppy thing for being placid and stupid. He can kill. I'm warning you. Alright? I'm just warning you.
And this whole scenario all boils down to this huge battle between Isaac's army and Carmilla's army. Speaking of Carmilla and her band of vampires, this is the season where they make it clear her plans of conquest are starting to fall apart. The rest of her allies start doubting her sanity, you see her becoming way too power hungry. And the way they wrote Carmilla, combined with the excellent voice acting, you can feel the anger she has within for the rest of the world, to the point where there is no logic behind her actions. She doesn't have an ultimate plan, and she knows it. She just doesn't care. She wants everything. She's out of control, and when she's left alone, she keeps scheming and her plans keep getting bigger and bigger until they balloon into this unmanageable mess. It was really fun seeing that process play out and then eventually just watching everything blow up in her face. And Trevor Belmont, what an amazing job depicting him as the hero of the Belmont clan that he was destined to become. I always hear from critics of this show that saw like the first 2 episodes and nothing else, that they don't like Trevor being represented as some drunk, but I can't really agree with that criticism. I mean, for one, the video game character really had no personality. The show practically invented Trevor's personality. Because yes, you do see him start out as this broken man, this drunk that has no faith in humanity, he has no reason to, and then he has to rise up to be this protector. By season 2 and 3, he was having this string of victories along with Sypha that made him overly confident. By season 4, he really starts taking charge of his destiny. Trevor's grown tremendously and gets to the point where he says that they have to start taking an active role in pursuing these monsters instead of just reacting all the time, thereby becoming the very definition of the word hunter, going out and actively seeking his prey. One criticism I did have about Trevor in the fight against Dracula back in season 2 was that he kind of took the back seat. Alucard really took a lot of the spotlight in that battle. But let me tell you what, episode 9 in season 4 specifically completely corrected this criticism in the final battle. And what I'm about to say is a massive spoiler. Again, massive spoiler. The final battle in season 4 is Trevor Belmont versus Death. That's right, Death is finally in the show after seasons of fans making theories of Death being behind the scenes, manipulating everything. He's the judge, he's this person, he's the bishop, he's that person. Every season was filled with Death theories, but he's finally in the show and he's a scheming bastard. Just like we all thought, he was definitely pulling some strings. And I love how Trevor describes him, since he's a Belmont, and if we take the games into context, his ancestor Leon would have faced death already. So Trevor had some knowledge about him from his Belmont studies.
You know me?
I'm Trevor Belmont of House Belmont. Of course I know you. Finding things and recognizing things is what we do. And you are absolutely a thing.
Death is basically this elemental being as old as the dawn of life that essentially feeds from death, kind of like how vampires feed off blood. He feeds from the death of others. That's where he gets his power, and his hunger is never satisfied. He wants Dracula back from the dead. Not to mention how they plan to bring Dracula back is all sorts of messed up. Death wants him angry and out of control, so he can feed off all the chaos that Dracula brings with him. In the final battle, it's Death versus Trevor one-on-one, and I felt like I was watching a final battle straight from the games, and it shows how powerful and determined Trevor is when he's pushed into a corner alone, and when the lives of the people he cares about are threatened. This is the Trevor that's being built up from season 1. This is the final version of the character. And the creative team perfectly paid tribute to the legacy of Castlevania with this final battle. And that about covers the main characters that we followed through the series, but there's so much little Castlevania Easter eggs all over the place. A lot of the monsters you see are straight from the games. The Flea Men, which I was enraged immediately when I saw them. I can't stand them. There's rock monsters, there's Isaac's innocent devil that protects him mid-battle while he's in the process of fighting Carmilla. It's so cool, she's hitting him and the monster's blocking for him. Even the Gurgoth, that big dinosaur monster thing with the weird mouth from, I think, Dawn of Sorrow, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that introduced it. I could be wrong about that. This whole season was straight up fan service combined with a great story. I almost forgot to mention too that Trevor finds all sorts of magical relics to use. One being inspired by the cross in the game that you throw, and they even add some interesting lore about it being connected to India. And Sypha introduces an interesting question. What if you show the cross to a Hindu vampire? Why would it have an effect on them? And Trevor explains that since vampires are highly evolved predators, putting a geometric shape right in front of them just messes up their senses, their depth of vision, leaving them completely vulnerable to attack. Things that didn't need to be explained, but it's quite clever when they are. I like that. And finally, I would like to talk about the ending and what it means for the future of Castlevania. We know there's reports that Netflix is eyeing a new series in the same universe. This has already been confirmed by one of the producers. You can read through this screenshot right here if you'd really like to. This is an interview with one of them where they talk about the potential future. Seems like we're going to get a new era with new Belmonts, and the finale does support this direction. By the end, we have a pregnant Sypha, so the Belmont bloodline's officially continuing, and Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard are all together with a bunch of villagers building the village of Belmont. So now we're going to have a village built around the Belmont clan, once again, this is something pulled straight from the video games. More specifically, from the origins of Castlevania Adventure with Christopher Belmont and the original with Simon. They had a village built around them. So the series is definitely planting the seeds for the most basic items moving forward. One thing that was completely out of left field, though, was the revelation that Dracula and Lisa are back somehow in the world of the living. Maybe. Something that both of these characters don't even understand. They're just as confused as the audience is. So there's plenty of unanswered questions still remaining. Here's a theory I'd like to pose. If the series continues, you kind of need Dracula. With the ending, it implies that he's back in the world of living with Lisa and they're frolicking around living their life together happily now. With Lisa at his side, he's not going to have a reason to strike back at humanity. And eventually, when she dies a natural death as a mortal being, he still doesn't have a reason to strike back at humanity again. With this ending, a lot of it felt off. Last time we saw Dracula and Lisa, they were destroyed along with this resurrected body of theirs. And then suddenly they wake up happily in a field together somewhere. It sounds wrong, right? Like something's not right. Lisa's asking Dracula what he thinks happened. He has no idea either. It's all really weird. So I have some ideas. What if in fact Dracula's back in hell? And this is almost a scenario being played out for him just to take it away from him later and cause excruciating emotional pain. He had her back finally, and then she's taken away again. Death did make it clear he needs Dracula angry. Could Death still be playing his game? Or maybe in fact he is back, and Death is posing as Lisa. Or maybe when their resurrected body exploded, maybe they traveled through the infinite corridor, and then got dumped on the other end somewhere alive and well. It's all a big question mark. It hasn't been explained yet. I just don't think that taking the happy ending with Dracula at face value is something that makes a lot of sense. Especially if they're planning to continue the Castlevania universe in Netflix form. There's got to be more to it than a nice little bow tied up. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments though about the ending. Do you think I might be on the right track? Can you take it at face value? Give me some of your own theories. I'd like to hear about them. We're all usually wrong, including myself, but it's always fun to come up with these story ideas. And tell me what you thought of season 4. I loved it. It's the best season out of the 4. And if you'd like to support my work, I invite you to become a patron. There's multiple levels of support available, or for an option right here on YouTube, you can become a channel member and gain access to exclusive badges, emojis, and polls. Every dollar helps keep the wheels turning, and I'd like to thank my current patrons and channel members for their continued support. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, and make sure you follow me on social media so you never miss a thing. I'll catch you guys later.